Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fabulous Tuesday. Last week, we took a look at our preview cards for Everfest and other cards that have been previewed from other people. And today,
what an exciting time!
We're gonna spill the tea.
Oh, is it time?
Everfest.
I think it's time. Yeah. So we're gonna do a couple of things. We're recording a podcast this week, and I think we're gonna talk about just the general state of Fab in a more kind of universal way, because the podcast is not just Flesh and Blood players. So we've got that going up this week. We're going to record that after this video. And then we're also today going to talk a little bit more precisely about the set evaluation piece, which now that we've seen all the cards from Everfest, they've all been officially previewed on the gallery and Fab TCG. We can actually understand this set in its entirety a little bit, have some terrible first takes, as is usually the case for those kinds of things. And basically go through what we thought were so far the hits, what was done right, what was done well, what we're excited about, etc., and the misses.
I saw you before the stream, going through the specific cards, which I have some hits and misses on, but I was really zoomed out.
No, it zoomed out. I was just referencing. You know?
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell tales out of school.
On the podcast we're going to record for this week, we are going to get into kind of like a little bit of speculation on the future of Fab. We've seen a lot of games come and go through the years, so just talking about that. One note on that before we dive into Everfest. I thought this was a notable stat.
Hit me.
Which is something I like sharing. This past weekend, I don't know if you saw this or not, over 10,000 unique gem IDs, which is players, participated in a Farewell to Wraith draft.
Really? 10,000 folks?
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
And that didn't count, apparently, in lots of parts of Canada. Because of COVID, they had to delay events till this kind of weekend. So their numbers aren't even showing up at all.
That's pretty impressive. But I like that.
And that's like, there's a different signs. You know, I remember people saying, hey, if 1,000 more people are at Vegas, the first calling in the U.S., since the pandemic, that's going to be like a great sign for the future of the game.
And it was.
And obviously all those callings were very successful and very popular. But this is kind of a different metric, and we saw this a lot back in the day, which is people would equate, world championship attendance to player base, and that's just false.
Happened all the time. Yeah.
So that's a really cool. I mean, that's a lot of people who are playing this game the week before a new set comes out.
Yeah.
And that to me was just a really cool sign. So anyways, on the podcast, we were talking a lot more about the future of the game.
Yeah, so join us for that. If you don't listen to the podcast, well, good for you.
It's called the Covenant.
Bless you.
It's over there on.
It's over on your listening platforms of choice.
Something. They change the name every 3 weeks.
Here's the thing about Everfest. Okay, so we said it last time. We said I said at least. I don't usually listen to what you're saying.
Don't speak for me.
I wasn't sure that the set was going to be for me because I didn't know if all the goofy stuff was going to be too goofy. And I think, I came around the horn, it wasn't too goofy.
Like bingo. Right? We got clowns. You were like, don't go putting clowns in my game. And then I was like, oh, yeah, they already showed us
bingo,
the clowns.
Pretty good card, as it turns out. But then what followed after like bingo and like a potion or whatever was a ton of fundamental class support. Fundies, like true fundies. So in terms of hits, I think the first thing for me with Everfest is that there was a level of fundamental support for all the classes that I was excited to see. I think players of any class have some new tools to start looking at. There's some entirely new directions to go. There's obviously a lot, some support, I won't say a lot, but a lot of support for the blitz heroes that can also be rolled into the classic constructed heroes. I was just really happy to see very simple things like in Warrior, like your next attack gets go again and you get a +3, just a different take on a reaction. Blade Runner opens up 1,000 different builds. Really 2, but in thousands of different ways. I think a lot of those potions are really fascinating. Some of them veer into completely unplayable by my current metrics of understanding a card. Like there's one that prevents a damage if you would like die, but it's a card in action to play it. So like you could have just defended for 3 and not died. Yeah. Anyway,
now I have a use case for that.
I'm sure you can pull one out. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever played against OTK Viscera, like we saw in the finals in that Oldhim match.
Yeah, it just prevents one, though,
Yeah, but like if he's not attacking you anyway, if Oldhim's over there and it's just like, oh, I'll drop these potions, and by the end of the game you have like 4 or 5 extra. But you could just be playing like Sigil Solace.
You know,
that's the thing.
The case,
Sigil gains you three immediately.
The case for less interactive gameplay as a strength of anything is something that I won't be much behind.
Well, to me, it's a hedge against non-interactive gameplay. Because someone who's just building up to kill you at the end, you now have tools to fight against that more.
If you're not doing anything on your turn, because that's your action. Play the potion. Right.
Yeah, I mean, you should be doing all sorts of
Right. You
things.
should probably be playing on your turn.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
But all that said...
All right, so your number one hit is full class support across the board.
I think we got a very good amount of class support across the board. Everything that I've been looking at, I mean, there are exceptions. There's one class in particular that's an exception, but...
How brutish of you.
But Illusionist got Bugatti.
To be fair, as much as, man, Prism is like my least favorite person to see across
I'm glad
the
you
table.
have a negative there.
I do think Illusionist, of course, it had the smallest card pool. So more cards there. I'm very
They're
happy
heaters
with
too. The Illusionist math is already just pretty good.
Yeah.
Ninja, you know, got a spread of new things. We'll see if those lines work out and play. I think the math on them is fine. It's not making anything feel good or bad, and it's not like, whoa. I think the new closer is pretty good, just as an outside observer. But Ninja players always surprise me with what they hate and don't hate. So
to me, it's almost like I've been doing algebra my whole life, and then Ninja players are doing like trig.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the math.
It's like, but don't you see how good these numbers are? And it's like, it doesn't work. It's like, oh, okay. I guess you're right. You know, there's some really good tools for mech. We got the Zero Boost card, the motorcycle card. What's that called? Wheel Out.
Hold on.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on, let me get my laptop out.
We also got a fair number of neutral / generic cards.
Wizard got blown up. They got some good stuff, man.
They needed it if they're going to exist in this world, which is a different question.
Ruinblade, your Ruinblade's got everything they wanted, right?
We've already been given. Legend Story has been given to Runeblade with both hands this year. So
it's like
we could have had nothing in this set and it still would have been fine.
It's like you attended your 5th Christmas in a week and it's like, another great gift. Wow.
I have a nephew whose birthday is a week after Christmas, and it's like 2 weeks after Christmas, and it's like by the time that's showing up, it's like, I already just got a bunch of stuff. So like it just hits different, you know?
I agree with Lance here too. I think this is really smart. A smart way to open up the Illusionist card pool without giving crazy synergy to Prism. And I think we saw that all over, that there was a lot of support that was going to different archetypes. Ranger, good example. I feel like they were blown up as well. I got a ton of great new tools in Ranger that I'm excited to try. Read the Glide Path is just already right off the bat. Azalea loves it.
Is that the opt and also pump?
Opt plus 3, yeah.
It's
I kind of was down on pumps anyway, but like it's doable.
It's like a blue card that blocks for 3 in Guardian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like give me more of these redundant tools. Like even bigger than that is extremely good for Ranger, Azalea in particular, and then you got like Tri-Shot and stuff that I think is more kind of Lexi focused, just because the ability to actually give an arrow go again is really important in that play pattern.
Logan May saying, I was promised Animal Crossing. This is the old bait and switch. Apparently Twitch randomly put the Animal Crossing category on our stream. So if you're here for Animal Crossing, you're welcome to be here, but we are not going to be talking about Animal Crossing.
Warrior got so many good tools too.
Yeah, man.
That Oath of Steel is a great, like, you know, when I was looking at Bolton before I realized the dark side of Sabers, I was looking at Sabers and I was like, remember we had that conversation of like, the combo is nice, but can you build the combo deck without relying so much on the combo? Oath of Steel gives you another like secondary tool to close out a game, or even to build an entire Sabers deck around. Slice and Dice is the same way. There's so many good warrior cards here. There's so many good warrior cards here. I mean, how did Guardian do?
I mean, it's not often that one class gets a new adult hero. Only class getting a new adult hero as far as I know. The Fabled, and a legendary in the same set, let alone the rest of the cards we're getting. So I think Guardian did just fine. Yeah, I think they're going to be all right.
And then there's Brute.
Which is just...
So
I like this. This is from Russell. And he says, Brute, RNG, random number generator. Looks fun. But there's no way I'm bringing that thing to a tournament.
Yeah, so do you want to crack that open? Because that's my first miss as well.
Yeah, how about we each get 1 hit, 1 miss at a time?
So
we're out of hits and misses.
Given the kind of overall scope of the hit and class support, etc., we get to Brute.
For some reason, your classes from the first 2 sets, right, were your seemingly favorites are Brute and Ranger. which says a lot. But anyways, go ahead.
I think anybody who had high hopes for Brute not embodying the coin flip as much is disappointed here.
Oh, it's because that just sailed down the river and said, "Never see you again."
Man, it really did sail. Now, it sailed.
Oh,
I mean, that
she
thing
gone.
is up. It's across the world already. I mean, it's already back. It sailed so fast. So the problem that I have right now with the way that Brute is being presented is that you have the ability to achieve the feel of the class without the pitfall of variance. So basically, you know, if you have, let's say most classes variance is like right here, and Brute's variance right now is like right here, whatever the max variance is. It's already a card game, so drawing cards is going to lead to some variance. You already have to match resource cards with non-resource cards in your hand. So if you don't hit that, that's going to be a level of variance. You've already got matchup variance in, did I sideboard correctly for what they were bringing to the table? Those kinds. There's a lot of variance always baked into the card game format.
Yeah.
And then we have a sideboard and you have such distinct different classes. There's a lot of variance everywhere. So if you add on top of that like so much of your critical success in the game is rolling a die, it's not going to really be satisfying for anybody. The person that you beat because you just rolled 4 5s and 6s in a row feels like they didn't have an actual game of Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
And then whenever you lose because you rolled 2 1s in a row, you feel like you didn't have an actual game of Flesh and Blood. So what you want to try to do is crush the variance down and have those ceilings and floors closer. Great example of this is if you look at the design of Scab Skins. That's like on a 1, rather than losing your action, let's say you take 5 damage. On a 4, 5, 6, or on let's say a 4, 5, 6, you get 2 actions. On a 2 or 3, nothing happens, right? So the high of the 6 is no longer 3, it's just 2.
Yeah.
And then the low doesn't stop your ability to play the game, it just penalizes you by making the win condition for your opponent easier. But you still get to do brute, fun, exciting things. It just hurts, right? Yeah. So if I were taking that class in a direction, it would not be my equipment's destroyed, my life is over, my rent is due, my mortgage is underwater because I rolled a 1. It would be more like, I just had an inconvenience, but I can still like play my game plan, right? So I think, the problem right now is that so much of the dice rolling in Brute is actively stopping you from doing anything else that feels Brute-ish.
Yeah.
And I would just like for it to be like, oh, you know what happens when Brute rolls bad? They get so mad that they are reckless and they take damage. And that's going to level the playing field of the upside of them rolling those dice, right? So that's just something that I just don't understand how this is contributing positively to either player's experience in a game.
Yeah.
And I have that critique against Wizard, but that's more personal opinion than it is like facts.
Well, we may dive into the Wizard combo in a little bit,
but it just doesn't make any sense. Why are we relying so much on the game state with dice being rolled? And then you have the practical problem of like, I have no way of knowing if my opponent brought, if they're like that. We saw somebody cheat at the L5R LCG. We saw people cheat at Conquest when nothing was on the line. If you don't think some moron is going to take a die and load it and try to high roll people with Brute all day, it will happen at some point, right? And so what do you do about that? And so you've added this new, so there's a practical problem and there's also this just kind of game design problem to me that I wish I didn't see them pushing farther into that space.
Yeah, which probably cuts both ways because not only do you not like that style, it's also a class that you like not seemingly getting closer to more playable.
Yeah, right.
Like, not that they're completely unplayable in their current state, but like when you get a lot of cards that you don't feel like there's a much use for in the way that you're planning to play the game, that doesn't feel great either. And I think a lot of Brute players would agree. They were kind of hopeful, both for Levia's sake and even Rhinar, that they would get some spice that would get them back in the conversation, and they definitely got more spice. It was just the random spice, you know? It's like, well, here's the thing. It might be cinnamon. It also might not be cinnamon. You know what I mean?
So the crazy thing is you have examples of this. Like, there's 2 in the set. Like, Swing Big is a good direction where it's like, if the defending hero basically covers up the attack, they get a boon. So, like, you swing really big. and then your opponent gets rewarded for blocking that, and that feels like brute, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm gonna throw everything at you, and if you block it, like, you did a great job. And then you also have an example of that in good, like, basic cards like Wild Ride and Bear Fangs are great standard basic brute cards. I would love to see them get away from everything costing 2 in this class, because it simply shuts out the possibility that you can swing your weapon and play a go again attack. You're already card strapped, so like there's a lot to balance in a brute hand.
Yeah.
But those are fundamentally interesting cards, but it's not like roll a die and maybe you do +6 or +1, or roll a die and maybe you do nothing or +X. You know, it's like, that to me, I just don't get.
Like roll 3 dice, and if you get 3 6s, you win the game.
Yeah.
If not,
so that's
whatever.
That's a miss for me. What about you? What are your hits?
So first,
give me one.
First hit. I think your hit is a big hit. By the way,
Yeah.
I think
that's like the fundamental hit.
Excitement that I'm seeing across the board right now from people of all different preferences in terms of heroes they play is high. I'm gonna. This is not in order of priority, but I'm gonna give a hit that's linked to a not hit, right?
Okay.
A hit and a miss all at once. Let's talk about Bravo.
I've lived my life like
right?
that. Yeah. Okay.
Everyone, the people in chat were asking if I've seen the cold foil Bravo. I have. It's very exciting. I love full art. I love cold foil.
Yeah,
I love special cards.
This is genius.
Just press the collector brain button over and over. Now,
you know what's amazing about that Bravo? It shows me that you can put two sides to a card.
Now we're going to my miss.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So my hit, the new Bravo, super exciting. Use all 3 elements, giving me a new way to use older cards that I, previously not. I mean, Old Him's fine, but he's not like the most exciting to me. He's just super control playing.
He's built to not be exciting.
He's built to just be a glacier. Just sitting there.
I got a lot to say about Old Him, but that's just beside the point.
So the miss to me though is I'm just befuddled by the young heroes. When Chris was coming out, it's like, oh, look at all these cool, interesting heroes. We were playing Blitz at the time. It's like, oh, maybe someday we'll get these in adult form and that'll be really cool. But I think without the context of when that's true, like Valda to me is a great example of this. That's a character when I first saw the young hero and we saw the promo. It wasn't a Majestic. Didn't know it was a Majestic. It's just promo. It's like, oh, are we getting a new Guardian character?
Wouldn't that be interesting that you could play in the competitive format of the game?
Yeah. But not only do we not have that, I also have no idea when we're going to have that. So for me, at least, just my personal player preference, she's not even in the picture. She's gone. I'm not thinking about her. I'm not building decks with her. I get it. There's some cards that create a lot of seismic surges and work with her. That's all great. But then the coup de grace was the fact that Cold Foil Bravo got revealed today. And it was like, wait a second. You're telling me you can pull off a double-sided cold foil. Not just double-sided even. Obviously, we have tokens with double-sided. But you can go so far as to put a double-sided cold foil essentially to flex. Right? It doesn't have the ability printed on it. It's full art. This is a total flex. And it looks beautiful. Keep flexing.
One of the more beautiful cards that's probably ever been printed.
I'm going to definitely own that card. Like, there's just no question. But then I'm looking at, like, Icelander. And because I was looking through the cards. And you see Icelander, beautiful card. Right? And then you see that new wizard staff.
Oh, my gosh.
It's got that. What's it? The
Kraken's vein or whatever.
And, like, I'm just sitting over here being like, if she had an adult version, the excitement would be through the roof.
Absolutely.
If Valda had an adult version, the excitement would be through the roof.
If Benji had an adult version?
If we're getting the Benji special.
If Cassie or Kasai had an adult version, oh my gosh. I mean, we've been playing with these heroes in Blitz for so long. Let's get them in the game.
Yeah. So, like, my excitement is still very high. Very excited about Bravo. Very excited everyone got support. Very excited about Classic Constructed. But, like, I feel like we were this close to being on the moon. Like, if we had gotten in this set all the adults that we're talking about, like,
can you imagine what happens? Can you imagine what happens?
But, like, it seems right there. It's so right there.
Can you even imagine what would happen?
Yeah, it would be very exciting. It's like we have 2 ninjas now. We have another warrior in the mix.
And here's this is the biggest. This has to be the biggest miss of the whole thing. Because this was like my number 1 high on the list.
I'm just taking things off my list.
It's fine for Brute to, have some dice rolling and get some other non-dicey cards. Fine. But I think just as a product that you're selling, like, what are you saying about the Blitz format here? What's the statement being made? That's what I want to know.
Well,
what is LSS saying about it with this kind of a set construction?
I mean, not to go into too, we're going to separate these out like a top 10 list or something, but so we also got what's his bucket, what you need.
Yeah.
Right? Which is fine. Like, I'm okay with the
It's fine.
At first, I was like, Valda as a Majestic, short printed. This is fine. You're going to get 6 to 8 Majestics in a box. It's not that big of a deal. But not only did we get what's his bucket, what you need. I don't remember his first name. But we also, here's the other thing that's weird about this set for me. That's kind of connected.
What are they saying about Blitz?
Well,
tell me that.
One of our legendaries.
Oh my gosh.
One of 3.
You can't get me on that. You can't get me started on that.
All right, we'll come back.
Can't get me started on that. Yeah. Here's my problem. Here's what I'm trying to understand. What is being said about the Blitz format here? So there's a couple of theories, right? One is we're using Blitz as a kind of a farm team to bring up certain people up into the adult life of Constructed. And so what are we going to do? We're going to lease these Blitz heroes, and then we're going to see how they do in the format, and then presumably maybe say like, oh, well, this one's not broken. Like, let's put them up. So the problem for me with me on that is that, A, it's never happened. So seemingly there's no reason
That's
to
what I'm
believe
saying.
that.
There's no plan.
There's
Like
if we got Benji in this set, it's like, okay, yeah.
The Benji specialization, the Kisei specialization. Now, it does get me a little excited for Shiana.
Sure.
That's a character I still would like to play at a CC event. Don't get me wrong. But here's the thing. We just don't know the plan.
Yeah.
Which, it's the classic, and I'm trying not to dive into my other misses, but the lack of knowing what's going to happen there makes it a lot less interesting. Because even when I pulled the card for that character, it's yet another card that I'm not excited about yet.
Like, is the idea that one of these will replace a living legend going out? There will always only be one adult guardian? Well, there's 2 already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not even... okay.
And there's multiple Room Blades.
That's
3
what
Room Blades.
we can speculate forever. But so
it could be that they have a Blitz character that's only ever going to be a Blitz character. Options, right? Either these are just Blitz characters, period. Or these are characters that will eventually have adults. Somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And also, I think what you're saying about these Blitz things. Now, I know there are a lot of people who play Blitz. A lot of people enjoy Blitz. I know a lot of people that their local meta just plays Blitz. I didn't play Constructed. And we've heard so much about Ultimate Pit Fight and multiplayer.
There's just no reason not to give us both.
And there's like a mystery product supposed to be coming out this year, I heard. Yeah. I don't know where people are getting that, or it's listed somewhere. But like, we don't have that yet. So I just don't know. I guess here's my thing. Better hypothetical. If adult versions of those heroes were on the back of those cards,
what do we lose?
What do we lose?
What do we lose? And if you're saying, oh, they're not very well balanced, then it's like, well, what are we gaining? Why are you putting unbalanced heroes into a Blitz format then?
Yeah. Now, if you think about PvE and the what you need guy and Cavdan and even the equipment piece.
Yeah.
You have 3 or 4 people playing together, and you have someone that lets everyone optionally draw a card, or he gets silver, or he does get silver when they draw cards and filter and stuff. That's super useful. But again, we don't have that yet. And so I don't know. I just don't know. It makes me scratch my head.
But
right?
That's also like, that's not, you can do it in a way that it's not siloed into such a specific use case, right? It's the same way with Blitz heroes. It's like, you can have adult heroes and Blitz heroes on the same card. You get best of both worlds. Yeah. All of the benefits you have, of whatever the benefits of having a Blitz hero are, you have achieved, but you also make them playable in your competitive format that you have said is your competitive format that we're about to have $1 million circuit for, that none of these cards work in. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. There's no reason, there's no way to make sense of that because it doesn't make any sense.
So my miss, of course, is the fact that we got young heroes and we didn't, and you have a clear example of where they could have not done that.
Not only do we get young heroes, I wanted to calculate this. I think this to me is the biggest head scratcher of all time. So we get Valda in the Majestic slot, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Ninja, clean. Those are some cool cards.
Oh yeah.
Then we get Blood on Our Hands in the Majestic slot, only playable in Blitz by Kasai.
2
so far. Then we get a Data Doll Specialization. Number 3 Majestic that I can't play. Let's keep going. We get Silver Palms. Let's just come back to it.
Yeah, and what you need.
Let's just come back to it.
Well, that's it.
I can't do it right now.
What you need is a Majestic, so 4.
Yeah. What you need is a Majestic for 4. Okay, that's right. Ruin Blade, I think, is clean, right?
Mm-hmm. Always.
Wizard Icelanders, 5. Mm-hmm. Become Technical Player, Staff, and Constructed. What else we got? I think Illusionist is great. And then there was one that I was missing. Was that all of them? 5? I think it's essentially 5 Majestics that are only Blitz.
How many Majestics are in the set?
I don't know.
Who out there knows how many Majestics there are?
There's
a
lot.
Benji specialization.
Oh, that's 6. 6 Majestics.
Not counting the legendary equipment, which we will come back to.
We will.
That's going to be a segment, let me tell you. So 6 Majestics.
Blitz
I think
only.
it's 45.
Yeah.
So you're at like an eighth of your set?
Yeah.
A little more than an eighth?
And they could have all been playable if there was just an adult hero on the flip side. Every single one of them.
45. I think it's 45. Yeah.
All of that is solved if these adult heroes are in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine the metagame that can spring forth? You've already designed the hero. You've already got the mechanics in the game. You've already got the card pool. You've got all the specializations
Everyone's
now.
here. Get the adult Ira too. Just go ahead and put it in.
Let's just get these
Let's
adults.
just go.
I mean, what happened? So, what are we worried about?
So,
what are our concerns?
Here's another theory: is that we won't get adult versions of the heroes that we're seeing, but we will, kind of like Bravo, get an adult version with the talent.
Yeah.
So when they go to Volcor, we'll get Kasei as an adult because she's got the Volcor template. Same when they go to Mysteria, I think is what the ninja land is called.
Yeah.
And that's when we'll get Benji and Ira as an example. It's possible that
the idea make Blitz really varied and crazy, and then eventually Constructed catches up.
And that was way different in Crucible when those were just like
tokens
and or even rares.
Yeah.
When you're getting 40 or 50 rares in a box and 1 or 2 is unplayable. Yeah. But once they start slotting these things in at Majestic,
now we're saying something.
That hits
right?
different.
We're saying something.
That just hits different.
Yeah.
So what's your next hit? Let's go back positive for a second.
All right. Let me tell you my next hit. It's a very specific hit, but I think this really I brought it home when we were watching that fateful box opening at CFB in the alley.
Is that box opening a hit or a miss?
That's a huge hit for me. That was one of the best times of my life. Watching that thing just slowly. It's like you're watching the Hindenburg head towards it.
Did you see that link in our Discord that was the apology air horn?
Yes. It's fab history.
I still cannot. That 10-15 second clip of video, it baffles me that exists in reality.
It's fab history, man. It's incredible. So shout out the alley crew there. But I was amazed because they were starting to open the fab cards, the Everfest cards. And then it was like, oh, oops, like we're not supposed to. And so then they were doing a weird box break of like a 2020 Magic set of some kind. And you know what struck me? How incredibly better the cards are, looks-wise, in Flesh and Blood. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not looking to dump on Magic. It's, the titan of the industry, etc. But actually getting that side-by-side comparison in real time was amazing, and it made me absolutely appreciate the art that's going on in this set, and I started paying attention a lot more, and I think it is incredible, the art style and the way that it's going here, and specifically that stalagmite shield.
Dude,
I would do a lot to play that shield if I could get a Guardian, and I said this in the Discord, that didn't either look like you or play like a snowman. If any of those things were true, I would play the next Guardian 1,000 times for that shield.
Yeah, now you might get that. I mean, the way it's going, we might keep getting Guardian heroes that you can play.
Yeah, it's true. If your class preferences have any indicator.
We'll come back to that in a second. But the art is incredible. That was one of my hits as well, actually. I was looking through all the spoilers on the gallery, and it was just like...
They're beautiful cards.
The look of this is obscene.
Yeah.
It's certainly one of the highest level productions I've ever
These
witnessed.
wizard cards, man. I mean, these wizard cards are crazy. All of this is insane. Now, they're not all hits. Like Wade
Jones says, I would do anything to play stalagmite. Or stalagmite.
Stalagmite.
Stalagmite. but I won't play Guardian.
I will not. I'll do anything but that. But I won't do that.
Yeah, I can't even say the thing. We'll come back to the shield. So the art was your hit. I agree.
Even like, let's pull up this round's on me. Like, I really paid attention to this
I love
card
that
a lot.
Yeah.
You have Oldhim in the background. You seen this?
Oh yeah, that's the playmat that they sent us.
Yeah, man. It's just like,
yeah.
You know
Prized
what?
Possession.
That is really awesome the way that they've done it. So I think the art, the strikingness of the cards, appreciating the borders, the design, the templating.
Pick card, any card. That
it's
art looks
crazy,
amazing.
right? It's crazy.
Yeah. In the swing, the promo.
Oh man.
Get out of here.
Come on, so good. Look at all these. I like all these amulets. The art on all these amulets is just cool. I love it. Like the amulet of intervention. I hate the card, but
apparently all those come in cold foil too.
Oh, it looks just so good. It's the way they do their weapons, where they just have them kind of in a void,
floating.
And they're just there. It's like, oh yeah, give me that. So yeah, I think the art is just absolutely top notch. You look at like Healing Potion, you really appreciate what's going on in there.
With the
There's
world
like
and stuff.
a world, a forest in there. Nuts. Potion of Seeing. I mean, these things are
Look at that one.
insane.
Potion of Deja Vu.
Yeah.
That's just in cold foil. That's going to be insane.
Yeah, I can't believe. So honestly, what's printed on the cards is one thing, but playing with beautiful paintings on a table is something that I'm always here for.
Yep. All right. And then what I'm always here for is you spill a little bit more tea. And you have another miss?
Oh. Well, let's get to the...
Something about fair and balanced?
I have a few. It just depends on, do we want to dive into Silver Palms yet? Because my weakest miss is actually just that I think the name Ride the Tailwind is a little bit unfortunate. I think you could have done a name that was a little more epic and a little less kind of make me laugh.
I didn't connect those dots at all.
As I said, it could be personal.
Yeah. So that's a very, very soft miss.
Yeah, it's funny.
One of the biggest hits for me is the booster packs.
Great. Good job.
I saw the video from the professor breaking that down. I've felt a couple packs at this point, and I think the quality on this, he did some tests to see if it would damage cards or whatnot, but the waste that's created from booster packs and collectible card games is insane. So progress on this front. I think Legend Story and Card of Monday, huge shout out for pioneering it, being willing to do it. I think that's it. Regardless of how Fab goes or how anything goes, that has the potential to be a lasting change in the industry.
Yeah, man.
That is talked about forever, and it all started in Everfest, you know.
Completely.
So I think that was super notable for me. On the Carnival Everfest vibe train, it's almost neutral. I can go either way, but the theme. I love the idea of Everfest and the carnival and the theme, and like that's why even Bravo early on reading the lore book, Arya, all this sounds really awesome. And I can go back. I can point to a clip. We can clip it. I wish I could play it right now, but I said, and it kind of hints at something I was saying earlier about Legend Story is they're very good about teasing things out and rolling things out and building that hype train, which works in your favor when the thing you deliver is more than people expected. But now people are just going wild. When Carnival Slot got announced, we were live when they made that set announcement.
Right.
We started just like,
it's like,
what if there's golden tickets and a signed card and a trip to New Zealand and $1 million and a PTI and like, a lottery ticket. I don't know.
That's right.
And then
James White will come to your house.
Seemingly the Carnival Slot is carnival themed cards that are sometimes full art. I didn't quite get my head around.
I still don't know what it is.
Exactly what it is, but it just looks like a booster pack it's a special kind of card, right? Which I think was a less hype than a lot of people were hyping it to be.
Yeah, especially I still don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So like that's definitely less hype.
I'm pretty sure it's like one of those neutrals that's kind of or the potions or any of that sort of stuff. Also like the sheer number of potions. I love the art, I love the vibe, but it's kind of connected to the merchant stuff.
Yeah.
And like that's not even remotely playable in like some of them.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, right? Like am I missing is there going to be some big what is it? Bric-a-brac?
Brad says it's the generic slot with potions and stuff.
Give your dog a bone.
Bric-a-brac, Nick.
But I feel like it's like what is it? Hold on, I'll look it up. Knick-knack bric-a-brac. So is there some kind of a build that's actually going to put out like 20 potions and like make this whole thing happen? The
Whether
answer
or
is
not
no.
Whether or not there is, the question is, should there be?
Or will I try? Like, yes, of course I'll try.
Well, even for me, again, so much of my value is tied to constructed, classic constructed. So if there was a merchant hero that was playable, and it was like, it's one thing when there's a Shadow Brute came out, and I didn't have that much interest in it. And it's like, I'm used to that feeling. Mm-hmm. But this is like, I just don't even know who these cards are for. Like when mech cards are coming out, it's like these aren't
fine. Mech people
these
like
aren't
it.
for me, but someone's happy about it. And so all those potions being in the game, obviously they're really good about putting cards in now that later will make a lot more sense. But this is a whole lot of cards that feel like I don't play the old potions, and the old potions
are really good.
Are good.
Yeah.
Seemingly from current evaluation of cards. So anyways, I think the Carnival slash a lot of the cards in the set, while we got support for all the classes, was like as close to a miss as you can be without being an outright like this was just a mistake.
Yeah, because like some of them open up some new lanes of play, which is pretty cool. It may be what Brad's saying. They're setting up for Alchemist,
which
is fine, but also I mean I guess just can it be in the Alchemist set then?
Yeah, and it's also like, do you want... I just look at it and it's like, well, is Alchemist going to be a class that has no defense?
Right, yeah.
And is that, without even getting into the Arcane Barrier Kano conversation,
yeah,
Wizard, it's like... Because I even picture with the cards we have now, even if you're playing Blitz, it's like, are you going to put 20 of your 40 cards as potions?
Yeah, right.
Like how many no block hands that also don't attack and you just lay down a single potion can you even put in a deck?
Yeah, you got no block and they don't have go again most of them.
I don't know.
I will say a hit for me is seeing potions with go again printed on them. That makes them imminently more playable. I think that was what's holding them back originally.
It's literally like going from 0 to 1.
Yeah. But you have really interesting cards like Talisman of Featherfoot. I think is really fascinating because it gives you an ability that really is going to matter to the fundamentals of the game. Gaining +1 and then getting go again.
That blows up Arsenal, also interesting.
Talisman of Warfare, super interesting. That opens up some cool builds. I'm looking at Endori Axes, of course. Swing the first axe. What are you going to do? Lose your Arsenal? Got to block it.
I mean, Briar, actually, Runeblade with the Rosetta Thorn loves it. Mm-hmm. Can love it because they have 2/2s coming at you.
Yeah.
And if you take either, I can just blow up your Arsenal. That's kind of interesting.
It's got some good...
Simon makes a good point here.
Okay, what's that?
Which I don't think is necessarily... makes it the right decision, but it's at least context saying to him all these things seem to point to PvE / ultimate pit fight rounds where action economy isn't as starved as it is in Blitz and constructed.
Yeah.
So like that would make sense if also right now we were getting like here's the ultimate pit fight / co-op product, solo product.
That seems relevant if you want people to really be like, I want to buy 20 boxes of this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but at the same time you see Bravo star the show. Suddenly there are people way more interested in Aria than they were. Mm-hmm. And so if 2 or 3 months from now that mystery product actually is related to co-op solo, I could easily see it being like, oh, because we're used to a world where a set comes out and then it's sold out.
Yeah.
Like I think mentally it's what people assume. It's like, once this comes out, I need to be at max interest. I'm going to buy it all up.
Yeah, it's true.
But realistically, I mean, Aria didn't even do that. And then even now it's like, I don't strategically think there's a terrible problem with a set that is 80% cards that people want now and is interesting and 20% planning for the future.
Sure.
And then on top of it, I can counter
sales,
my own. Yeah. Instead of it being like a flurry all at once, it's like
spread it around.
Just spread it. But I've also played a lot of CCGs where 80% of a set is just totally unplayable.
Yeah.
Like, and that's normal.
Right.
Like, I don't know if Magic's still that way. I assume it is. But, like, so when I actually zoom out, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's like 10 potions. Well, that's fine. Like.
And many of them are actually playable. Quite playable.
They're quite playable.
And right now, like our snapshot right now, you can slot these into decks.
Yeah. Let alone cooperative, pit fight,
future heroes,
etc.
Future cards.
So, like, thing, I also, all of this is with a grain of salt. Because it's like, yeah, we can get picky, and there are some things I'm picky about in a second. I'll be more picky, but reality is, 80+%. I haven't done the math, but most of the cards I've seen are like hyper playable right now.
Yeah,
and at least even like when we're on the Blitz stuff, it's like I know people that play Blitz and the young heroes. So like, and we might get adults someday. So more. Yeah. But some of those potions I'm looking at,
well,
and I'm scratching that.
You go back to the problem. You can satisfy every blitz player in the world without compromising a CC player.
That's right.
That's the ultimate problem you run into. But let's look at these potions, though, for a second. So if we think about 3 being the average value of a card, Talisman of Warfare, great. Okay, destroys an arsenal card. You're going to make the card that you played back by destroying their arsenal, and it could be even more important against something like Bolton Sabers and that kind of thing. So, all right, good value. At least equal value, could be greater than value.
Yep.
Great. Talisman of Tithes. You're going to prevent your opponent from drawing a card. That's got value too. Like, it's definitely worth 1 card the other direction, and it could be worth more than 1 card in certain decks that are trying to string 5-card hands together. Cool. Or they're relying on draws during the game. Talisman of Featherfoot. Go again.
Interesting.
Go again. Pay in. It's weird because it's like, I would never... right now, play a card just to give something go again.
Mm-hmm.
That's you're subtracting 3 from the entire equation, so the go again has to be overly effective for it to matter. But go again is the most important ability in this game, so let's not pretend that it's not going to be important to have many sources of it. Talisman of Cremation, interesting, could maybe matter.
It's got the ones that have go again printed on it.
All of them actually they're actually making things happen. Like Talisman of Balance, you put it down and then you get a free arsenal later. Mm-hmm. They're all kind of transferring card costs from now and the payoff later, and it's at least equal. But then you look at things like Potion of Luck. Potion of Luck doesn't have go again, doesn't have any defense, and it's a hedge against a bad hand.
Now, so it's good that both of us are here. I saw that one. And I immediately went back to my Briar deck. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's a lot of times when, I could like finish with a sword swing.
So you take this over 4 damage, basically.
Yeah, and so like, because there are also times when you draw no attacks with Briar. And I was looking at the one where the Talisman, what's the one where you shuffle your hand in the Hope Merchant's Hood?
Yeah, Hope Merchant's Hood, yeah.
I was almost putting that over Skullcap.
Because it was so important that your hand wasn't bad.
Being able to mulligan a hand mid-game is actually going from like doing 3 or 6 in a turn to doing like 20.
Yeah.
Potential, and it's random, but like odds are it's going to be better than 3 or 6 by like at least 4.
Are you willing to mess up your pitch stack like that?
Well, the other thing out of Briar with that card specifically is that the second non-attack action gets you the go again token. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's like 0. You may not even have the ability to use the sword, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like at least you can.
It's because you have an abundance of go again, where you might not even be able to take advantage of it all. You get to play something that the card cost is not as high for you because you're not wasting so much time to play it.
Yeah, and then you literally have,
I can see that.
You fixed your one core problem.
Yeah.
And it's a blue, right?
It's a blue.
So it also is pitching at the old school, like Cheerio Briar wouldn't care, but like Earth Briar, that would be a totally fine exchange to make. I'm not saying it is in that slot.
It's interesting, like most of these are like, that could be, but then you start looking at your deck list and you're like, what am I cutting for this?
Yeah, I don't know where, but I do know that the games where, like I was messing with the ratios in my deck to just ensure that never happened. Mm-hmm. And so slowly I actually had more attacks than non-attacks because I would rather have an all-attack hand than...
Right, I did that with Azalea too.
Yeah. So that's at least like...
And it gets you to 15 blocks. So it trades your arsenal and you redraw. Don't you? Yeah, draw 5. So if you have an arsenal, it goes in. So it kind of is the old him thing in that way.
And not that I go this direction often, but picturing like Visceray leaning the OTK direction, it's like a lot of times you don't want to attack at all. And so create rune chance, do this thing, play a potion, move on, and then later if you need the hand. If you really need the hand.
Yes, I could see it. There's a use case for that card, for sure. There's a use case for a lot of them. These ones without go again, though, are going to be so hard.
Yeah.
Like Potion of Seeing, where you just look at a hand, a hero's hand. It's like...
I have no idea how that works.
We've seen this in 1,000 card games, and I feel like designers always overvalue the ability to see an opponent's hand. Because by the time you and I are playing at a high enough level where we would think to include something like this in a deck,
I don't need to know what's in your hand.
I know what's in your hand.
Yes. I either know or I know what it could possibly be.
I know enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you're playing as Dory. It's like, I don't need to know if you have the reaction or not. I'm playing how I'm playing. Mm-hmm. It is what it is.
Potion Deja Vu, it's just like, if all of these had go again, I think I could see a use case for most of them. Healing Potion, kind of interesting, right?
Now,
You spin a card in a blue. You want to know a concern that I've got? I don't think we need more healing in the game. I worry about, we've seen, how many games have we seen crash and burn due to healing?
Yeah. I think
Look
you
at
have to
that
be
old
careful.
spoils gold deck.
Any card that heals you for 2 is fine.
Well, but what you're actually looking at is when control decks are able to simply gain more health than you can ever attack through.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of problem, right?
Which is only possible if they don't have a weapon that can swing.
Oh, I have been living that life my whole Fab career, haven't I? Yeah.
So, like, that's not a normal problem.
Yeah.
You can gain life till you're... Like, if that's all your cards are doing...
Do you think the effective health of Bravo and Ultim is higher per hit point?
What do you mean?
It's weird. It's a weird question.
I'm trying to track that question.
Because it's so hard to punch damage through at all that 1 health gained is actually worth more than it would be for an average hero. Because their defensive tools are so strong, like every health point is so hard to actually get that, like, just adding, an extra.
I think particularly for Oldham, that's very
Isn't that
true.
crazy?
Yeah.
So Oldham on all the sigils, the healing potions. That now, of course, healing potion could just be a 3-block card.
Yeah.
So wouldn't you rather just block 3 than gain 2, right?
It is nice for Oldham in that he can usually turn a blue into 3-block without spending the card. Because he can use 1 on the crown, and that puts the card back in his hand. And then he can either use Arcane Barrier or use his reaction, the resources for a reaction, or use the shield. Like, he's just got a lot of ways to use his resources. So in the event, though, that they're not pressuring you on a turn, but it doesn't have go again, right? So, like, that's always where the math gets weird, because, like, swinging is effectively preventing damage later. So what are we doing?
Yeah. So that gets interesting. Yeah, and man, Amulet of Intervention just looks so great. I think Amulet of Ignition is phenomenal.
What's it do? I like it. I like
go
the
again,
look of it.
You destroy it, the next ability you activate costs 1 less, and you have to do it at the start of your turn.
It's like a saving a resource.
It's basically an extra resource. That's right.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times that doesn't really matter.
But it's got go again, right? So you compare to, like, Energy Potion. Energy Potion, you play, it turns over.
Right.
So Energy Potion gives you an extra resource, but this is super playable.
I mean, basically think, like, what would it be like if I had Tunic on command?
Yeah.
How many deck builds would be like?
Oh, yeah. Totally.
I'll play that.
Even Bravo doesn't mind that. Like,
Bravo doesn't mind anything.
Yeah, he doesn't mind much at all. But, like, just being able to store up a resource without wasting your turn. Like, for things that just do one thing a turn, you cannot spend your turn playing a potion.
You just can't.
This comment from Tom saying, I'm so glad that your first edition booster box subscription is finally reopened. I was able to sign up for 3 boxes and get free shipping. I love your content. The content you guys at TC provide. I'm so happy to be able to support you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you to you and all of our subscribers. This, us rambling for a couple hours about Fab on a Tuesday would not be possible without that.
It's wonderful. You know what? I'll give you a hit. You want a hit?
Yeah, hit me.
Actually, Amulet of Haven Call.
Okay. That's a very particular hit.
It's so strange. It actually is so tantalizingly weird that I just want to know more.
What's it do?
It's that weird one. It's a defense reaction potion where you go get Rally the Rear Guard.
Oh, that's so bizarre.
It's so weird. It's a potion that fetches a particular card in a way that you can't use the card to its fullest because you have to have an empty hand.
Yeah.
And the whole point of Rally the Rear Guard is you can instant speed +3. It drives me nuts to think about what design through line gets you to this card.
And this is actually a good example to me of, like, you can make weird things that don't make any sense that make me one day hope that it will make sense.
Is there a mini story somewhere in here?
And I like that kind of stuff.
Is it like put together Exodia kind of stuff where you have the Amulet of Haven Call and some kind of a horn and like some...
I mean, there could be a character later that's like,
Rally the Rear Guard gets +2.
Or somehow you get cards back after the fact, right? So then you could use its ability. Anything that would let you draw cards on defense, as an example, would be a good example of that.
I think it's all the Star Wars CCG we've been playing too, where it's like, it's just kind of tantalizing to be like, ooh, very specific interaction. Like, there could be a hero that's like, Rally the Rear Guard, and this other card and this other card have these stats now because you're the leader of the rear guard or whatever. And it's like,
that is interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'll play this. That's cool.
That does strike at that old TCG depth.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the amulets are all the amulet potion kind of stuff is all just like, it's tantalizingly interesting. It's kind of one of those deck builders puzzle pieces that you're always kind of like trying to figure out where they fit in. And then when it gets a super hyper competitive play, they probably just don't have any impact whatsoever.
Professor's got a cool point. You don't have to have an empty hand. You could always have a pending draw trigger from something like Crown of Seeds.
Yeah.
Then
Go
trigger
back to
that,
Crown of Seeds.
and then Crown of Seeds triggers you with the card back, and now you can rally the rear guard to the moon.
And that is a long-winded way to block 5.
Mm-hmm.
Could matter, though. It could matter. Another hit. You want another hit?
Just an example. Okay, yeah, sure. Let's hit him up. I have a hit. Let me hit you with a hit.
Yeah.
Let me delete this. Art is so good. Here's a hit. I think it's very good for the game to see the majestic equipment pieces that function very similar to the old school legendary equipment pieces. Slightly different. But obviously you have things like tectonic plating out of print.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got the new Guardian chess piece, I forget what it's even called, at the Majestic slot.
Earthlore chainmail.
That
or
blocks
whatever.
has the same armor stat. Has a different ability. It's
Earthlore bounty.
It's a very different kind
2
of card.
defense, temper.
Same with the mask, the new mask that came out
Yeah.
for Ninja. So I just think one of the things I see from time to time is like how expensive it can be to get in. And depending on where you come from, it's either cheaper or more expensive than what you're used to. And I think the more options that we have in the same slot is good for a variety of hero builds, but then also at the Majestic slot particularly, it just means that you're opening up what people can get to play these classes in an effective way. I think I would like to see them continue to do that.
You know what's funny?
What's up?
I actually had on my miss list was that mask. And for the reasons that you mentioned, it's good, right? You could also just reprint the mask as a Majestic. But Mask of Momentum to me felt like such a fundamental class identity piece for Ninja. Mm-hmm. It's the whole point of the class. Like without mask, the class doesn't even work, right? Like who cares about Ninja without a mask? Have you ever tried to play Ninja without the mask?
I barely tried to play Ninja with the mask.
So I think it is disappointing for Ninja players who have been waiting for 8 years for new cards. And the only card that they get on the equipment side is one that they have to replace what they already had with.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, I think you could have expanded on things that they weren't doing so well already and then come back and start looking at, alternatives to what's already really good in the class.
I guess what is Ninja currently not already doing well?
Their boots aren't great, right? Those Breeze Riders are fine. You could give it an alternative breaking scales. It's fine.
Playable.
Give them a chess piece already. They don't have a chess piece, do they? They play Tunic, right? Yeah. So, let's work on replacing everyone having to have Tunic before we start working on replacing Mask of Momentum, a critical and important Ninja headpiece.
Yeah.
That would be my take.
Yeah. Now, I mean, the thing is, I look at this. What's the Guardian one there?
Earthlore Bounty.
So, as long as it's tough, to do something different that isn't just strictly better or worse. But the more that it's not even just here's a somewhat replacement for it, it's also here's a different option. Because as Guardian, tectonic plating is pretty core to my normal routine, but I like having choices to make at that slot, any slot in general. But Runeblade got the Quill, and I don't think you're gonna play it over the Grasp unless you don't have the Grasp.
Yeah.
But it's close. And there, you can maybe build in use cases where it's actually better, and there would be a reason to play this over that, kind of an example.
Yeah.
So,
see, if I were trying to solve this problem, which it's obviously great for Benji, but the entire competitive season can't play Benji, so it's cool, but that's going to be a problem. What I would do to solve that problem is rather than you want everybody to be buying these booster sets, right? So you don't want your previous players, especially the ones that have been there for a long time and are heavily invested and probably starting a lot of these new communities, to be I don't really get anything exciting from a class in the supplementary set, especially. But if you wanna pursue cost affordable options, etc., make a starter deck. Put Earthor Bounty in your starter deck. Put links in the starter deck or whatever. Make a Benji Blitz starter and do it that way rather than spending your slots on booster packs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now, it's also the recognition of what the Majestic slot is or isn't. And I definitely, when they merged the Super Rare and the Majestic, old boxes had 2 Majestics and 6 Super Rares on average. That was the previous. Now you get 8 Majestics.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a certain amount as well of Majestics aren't uncommon and you only need one of these things. So I don't know.
Yeah. I get there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a definite use case for you need alternatives so that players aren't locked out of legendaries for sure. But there's ways to do that, I think, that are not necessarily compromising the validity of cards that you could have in your booster set. Because it just kind of strikes at the same thing we were talking about with Blitz, where it's like a lot of these cards for CC players, you're opening them and you're can't play them in your current environment, in your current decks. Mm-hmm. And for a Ninja player with Mask of Momentum, it's the same thing with Mask.
Yeah. Now, if we got into all Benji, does that Mask get more appealing to you?
I think so. But you think, yeah, probably. I think so. I need to look at it.
Let's try to read that.
But it sounds like it's great for Benji, for sure.
Yeah, what can you read it to me?
When an attack action card you control hits, you may destroy Mask of the Passing Links. If you do, search your deck for an attack action card with 2 or less, banish it, then shuffle. You may play it this turn. I don't know enough about Wizard or about Ninja. Haven't played Ninja enough to know, but man, it would take a lot for me to give up Mask. Because this is similar to what Mask is doing, but Mask is doing it every turn.
Yeah, Mask is really forcing them to block more than it's hitting.
But they can't with Benji is the thing. They can't block 2 or less. So to me, Mask is I get a free card every turn if I have to go again 2s in my deck. Permanently. Permanently for the rest of the game.
Forever.
Right? Yeah.
I will say on Earthor Bounty, I look at when I actually think through Valda and getting multiple Seismic Surge tokens on a turn being kind of somewhat critical. You can always get one with Tectonic Plating, which isn't bad, but you're paying 1 to just do that. In this case, if there is a certain amount of card draw going on both your, whatever turns are happening, because it's whenever you draw a card from the effect of an action card, create a Seismic Surge token for each card drawn this way. So Tome of Faendal giving you 2 of those tokens is actually really interesting.
Yeah, it's super good.
Especially when she has an ability that triggers on that quantity.
Yeah.
So I don't know, we'll see what happens, but these being playable somewhere, right?
Yeah.
They're generically playable for new players, I think. If you don't have a Tectonic Plate and you get this, you're playing this.
Yeah.
Not even a question. It also, I think, slants you towards playing cards that draw you cards.
Yeah.
Right?
Clearly.
Even there's the Aura. I think we'll get an Aura build of Guardian.
Even Bravo would do that, right? You play Showtime, you draw... Do you draw an extra card in that? Is it technically a draw card? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, it's got some play.
He's also got the... What is it called? I lost my train of thought.
Crippling Crush.
Yeah, he does have Crippling Crush, yeah, for sure. Guardian in general has the... you play the Aura that heals you, but if you have a 3 cost in your pitch, you draw a card back. I played Blessing Deliverance.
Yes.
So it's a Blessing Deliverance suddenly is play this thing, get a surge, heal later.
Yeah, true.
This is good. This is the one card I hadn't really dove in the Ninja Mask too much, and Mask Momentum one of the best cards in the game.
Right, I think that's kind of where it lands. That's kind of the
But this to me is potentially a whole new arm of Guardian appearing, which I like. Right,
and it's playing very similar fundies where it's just creating surges, just doing it a different way.
That's exactly
incentivizing you in a different lane.
Yeah, and I would love to see more of that. So the Rune Blade example, the 2 classes, of course, that I'm paying attention to, is a little further off to me than that one. But it's the Vexing Quill Hand. Action, destroy your Quill Hand, create 2 rune chance, go again. Arcane Barrier 1. So realistically, this is a sub instead of playing the gloves, Rune Blade Glove. We talked about this. Arcane Barrier with something on it that's not just Arcane Barrier.
Yeah.
So when I'm playing against stuff that's magical, being able to replace my gloves with this is Arcane Barrier, but also has an ability I might be willing to use and lose the Arcane Barrier at some point in the game.
Yeah.
Which I think is...
So it has a use case for Viscerai.
It's already in my list over my gloves.
Yeah.
Period.
Here, so that is really, I think, speaking to the point that I'm talking about, where these aren't binary choices. It's not one or the other. Where are we supporting new players or are we supporting old players?
You can do both.
Bravo can have a use case for Earthward Bounty. Viscerai can have a use case for Quill. I don't think Katsu has any use case for that Pouncing Mask.
Or even maybe Benji. I mean...
Maybe, yeah, in CC, if it was CC.
There is a use case.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not even in CC.
Well, Mask is just so good over the course of a 40 health game. Yeah. It's going to trigger more often.
Yeah.
But so, that's why even if the Pouncing Lynx thing had Arcane Barrier 1 would be at least something. Totally. I don't know. It's just like the Guardian one is creating seismic surges in the same way, a different way than Tectonic Plating. You get a little less defense, but you get a little more explosive seismic surges. And then the Quill is Arcane Barrier doing the same thing that the Grasp is doing, but kind of accelerated, but one time.
Yeah, and giving you the Arcane Barrier benefit. Is the key.
So that's where the Mask to me is kind of in a different pocket, and that's why I flagged it as like, I think this is an area where I'm like, I don't know. I think you can also have a piece of equipment that Benji and Katsu can both enjoy.
Yeah. But I look at like the different Majestics, so like I'm just gonna pull them up real quick.
Yeah, it's so fun to look through this set.
You have the Kraken's Aether Vein, right? Which I think is actually
that's so cool.
It looks cool, but it's also playable by Wizard, right?
It's so cool though.
Yeah. So when we're talking about these equipment weapons, did you see Crown of Reflection?
Yes. But like all illusionist cards, you need to read it to me slowly.
Yes, dude, you're totally right. I agree. It should have that as like a warning. So Arcane Barrier 1, it's a headpiece, right? So previously this was the Halo Illumination, which you would use to cheat a card into your soul, particularly on your Tome of Divinity turns. I think that's what that.
Which is a generic light card, so it's waiting to be replaced, right? You would think.
Yeah. So Arcane Barrier 1 already, which is good. Instant, destroy Crown of Reflection, destroy target illusionist aura you control. If you do, you may put an illusionist aura from your hand into the arena with cost less than or equal to the aura destroyed that way. Activate Crown of Reflection only during your action phase.
There's a lot of good conditions on that.
Can't do it on defense.
Yeah.
But on offense, I can basically change an aura out for a different aura as long as the cost is less than or equal to that thing. So
I think that's it. That's just awesome.
Yeah. I like it because there's
just illusionist stuff.
Even the 4-cost auras, there's some that you'll just leave out as the opponent. You'll be like, I'm not dealing with that yet. Like, it's not critical. But now there's a risk to that.
And then all of a sudden it becomes critical, right?
It becomes the one you just can't have it be. I think this is really interesting. It's Arcane Barrier 1. We're starting to see more and more equipment. I am going to guess we're heading towards Wizard at some point in a set, in a talent, right? Whatever that looks like. So I get a feeling they're starting to plant the seeds of Arcane Barrier, and we had an Arcane Barrier conversation a week or two ago, and I know Kano is a big topic for you, but I do like the magical classes, Runeblade and Illusionist, that aren't Wizard, starting to get equipment that does something and also is Arcane Barrier, and then characters like Dorenthia not having that option.
Not good.
They just have the old school Arcane Barrier 1 stuff.
Yeah.
Thematically speaking, I like that you're able to differentiate who's good against Magic and who isn't without it being totally restricted and saying Warrior just doesn't get the ability to stop.
Yeah, it's just more annoying, isn't it? And you get less good because you just have to swap out equipment.
Yeah,
some of that equipment. Hey, you know what? I want to celebrate this card, Wild Ride.
Tell me more.
So I had an old Brute deck. It was an old Rhinar Club deck. Club Brute is what we called it. And the biggest problem that you run into with a tempo-based Brute deck is that all of your go again is so taxing to play, right? So your traditional kind of generic Brute cards are all discard a card from your hand to potentially get go again. And you got to run all these 6s in the deck, right, for those things to pop. So a lot of the Brute problem is like, if I pitch a card and I play an attack and then I discard a card, that's a 3-card hand, and I've done 1 attack with go again, but I only have 1 resource floating.
Yeah.
So I can't swing any of my weapons. So then you put Tunic into that deck, and every 3rd turn, you can like do a go again attack, and then you can swing the club for 5. It's like, that's tempo Brute right there. So Wild Ride, I believe, is the first in this series of 2-cost go again attacks that don't discard a card from your hand.
Okay, so now you could do that and
you draw one from deck and then discard, so it's card neutral on the discard. So basically, you have pitch, play, wild, ride. That's a 2-card hand. On a tunic turn, you can hit for 11 with the club on a 2-card hand. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you also have the option to extend these lines by adding a 3rd pitch card and then doing another attack into a club as well, or just another big attack. So I think this is actually a very sneaky, good Brute card. Anything with Go Again you have to watch for because Blood Rush Bellow is the name of Brute right now. So easy to trigger, easy to play. Go Again attacks like this are continuing to power a certain dynamic in Brute that is just like, it felt like we had 70% of the cards we needed in that pocket. Yeah. And we're starting to get more and more of them. And I think you even played this in Leviah. I think this is a pretty good Leviah card.
People were talking about that earlier. Yeah. And I think that's the Brute I like the most is the just wild swinging and damage Brute. And the varying amount of damage based on the variance, not do you do anything or not variance. Yeah. I think that's for me, that's the switch. It's like if drawing and discarding a random card and I hit a 6 gets me more damage, and most of my things are 6s, but sometimes I just miss because you're not going to run all 6s in your deck necessarily. I like that amount of variance. Yeah. That's the cozy spot for me with that class.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
agreed.
The scab skins don't do anything or do a lot is rough.
And then unfortunately I look further into, these cards, Wild Ride and Bare Fangs, which are pretty nicely above the curve, and it's like they don't block. Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, let's go.
That's how they get above the curve, right?
This is here we are. Yeah. There's always a downside, right? It's like I already don't have hit effects. Why are you taking defense away from me?
I have another hit miss that's tied together.
Hit me.
Skullcap.
Okay.
Arcanite Skullcap. I think again for players, for newer players, the more Skullcaps around, the better. It's a very used card. But you've said it several times, it's like the non-foil same art version of a card is a really interesting pocket for me. As a player that already has a Skullcap, I didn't mean to do that, and then all of a sudden it's like I can't get around it. It has a Skullcap, right? You even have a Skullcap. It's like we get
I even have a Skullcap.
Even you, lowly you. You have a Skullcap that is the foil unlimited version. That's one you use. And so if I pull a non-foil Skullcap, the only thing it's good for is to get to trade or sell, which is, I think that's maybe the point, because they just don't want people sitting on it. Yeah. Where it's like, so it's kind of a hit miss. Where it's like, if it were cool alt art, I would probably keep it. Yeah. Which is maybe anathema to why they're putting it in the set in the first place.
That's a good point.
As a non-foil, though, I'm immediately like, okay, who needs this? And I'm looking to make a good deal quickly because I don't need this copy of this card.
So, I mean, this is all pointing, I think we're starting to narrow in on, I think, the fundamental question of Everfest at this point. I think we've kind of been around a lot of these topics, and so much of it is the tension between new players and increasing supply so that card prices are affordable and people can get into the game, and old players who are opening a pack that they aren't excited about, and trying to find that middle ground. So a lot of our misses have been about where we've been playing for a long time, and we're looking at this and saying we can't play the Blitz heroes in CC in our competitive Pro Tour environment. You can't play those specialization cards. You've got an Arcanite Skullcap reprint that you don't care about. You've got equipment that isn't replacing your class staples. If I'm a veteran player, is there enough in here for me to be like, I need to buy this set and collect it? And then if you're a new player, is there enough for you as a new player to start here? Because this isn't where any new player is going to start, I presume. And not a supplementary set in the second block.
Yeah, I'm going to guess it's not the first point of contact, but I would assume you do want the entire player base to be interested in buying this product.
Right. Yeah, so it's really just a matter of where you draw those lines. Yeah. And I think what we're looking at is there's places where either is being prioritized where it feels like you could have appealed to both.
Like having adult heroes on the back of the young heroes.
Blitz heroes also on the back as adult heroes. Equipment slots like the Mask and Ninja that is either a different slot or a tertiary effect that Katsu might need in certain matchups.
Yeah. It's really interesting that we don't have a young Bravo star of the show. I guess he was never that as a young hero, thematically speaking.
It might all just be flavor.
Yeah.
It might just literally be storytelling.
Which in the end is fine. Like I will buy that, right? I can eat that meal if that makes sense, right? Like if it's all in the name of lore.
I'm on a whole food narrative based diet.
That's right. That is absolutely correct. But like another just reality for me is kind of just interesting. I think, and that's a good moment, right? And if you're watching this later, leave a comment if this is true. But like specifically, it's hard for me to get in the frame of mind of a new player or someone that plays blitz a lot. Because I can see that being, and they're looking at the data of who's playing what and how often they're playing.
Sure.
So like, I presume that this is not an uninformed decision, right? And it's okay to not be in the phase necessarily of like every card in here is something everyone wants and the prices are going to go to the moon and like it's just insane all the time.
Right.
But at the same time, you have it pulled up, which is another note of mine that's like, I look at the page that you have, it's like the Guardian stuff, and it's so exciting and unexciting all at the same time. It's a mixed emotions.
Dude, that stalagmite, I could stare at it for years.
So the stalagmite,
look at this card. Can we pull this card out?
The craziest thing to me about this shield.
This is the best card in any card game ever.
I know we were hashing this out over Discord this past weekend, but like,
look at that thing.
It's a little baffling to me that this card was not the shield that was in Arya.
Really surprising, right?
Because without
it's really surprising
Rampart of the Ram's Head, I look at this shield, like if this had come out in Arya, I would have been like, oh my God, it's so good. Oldham's got to play it. It's going to be awesome. And he plays it, and it is awesome, and it is beautiful. All these things are true. Now that I have Rampart of the Ram's Head, though, just raw efficiency constructed math, I'm looking at it, and it's like, I can invent scenarios where this is good. Of course, blocking for 3 health, great. The card that lets you remove the tokens from it, also great, right? The frost tokens on your opponent's turn, the middle of a turn, anyone with a lot of go again, this could be great. But it's kind of like the mask momentum problem we had earlier with that other mask.
Yeah.
But then I just look at Rampart, and it's like, well, if you're going wide enough for these frost tokens to matter consistently, would I not just rather have a shield that can block for 1 and then sometimes 2 for the entire game? And it's like trying to parse out the value of a frost token, especially like a frost token that sometimes a frost token is like super painful. And sometimes it's just like, oh, I had 2 extra resources anyway. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's weird timing for me because like if it had been released in Arya, there's at least a moment where it's the go-to shield.
Sure. There's a good case to be made on that.
And then also we're in the supplementary set. So like people that don't want to play Oldham, that might want to play Bravo, right? I feel like that if the Rampart was in this set, everyone's going to see it and be like, I've got to own that card.
Sure.
Which then gets me to the next point that is both mishit, which is the
Hold on, have you tried looking at this card, though?
It's gorgeous, and the cold foil is ridiculous.
I mean, you can talk all your math and stuff, but have you looked at it?
Yeah, now art goes a long way.
I mean, Rampart is hardly...
Like
Rampart's too straightforward.
I don't know, Rampart's pretty sweet.
I mean, the problem is so many of their early cards are just so fundamentally solid.
Yeah.
So you start adding little conditions and little weird use cases, and it's like, well, would I rather just have the more effective,
people in chat
consistent
saying
thing?
That this is really, and it is. It's better in Blitz because it's a shorter game. So the pain of losing the shield isn't as bad. But in Constructed, losing that shield, like 1 block every turn for a resource, especially it's an ice card. So when you can, anyone that can play this that's a Guardian right now also has access to Crown of Seeds. And once you're paying 1 for Crown of Seeds, you already have the floating resources to use the Rampart.
Yeah.
So like against in this one, I was like, oh, against Ninja, it's really brutal to give them a frost token. It's also really brutal against Ninja just to block for 1 every turn for a resource.
Yeah.
Like new Bravo with Crown of Seeds and Rampart just blocks both Kodachis every turn without even thinking about it.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's so good.
So anyways, I love this card. I love what it does. It is actually super playable.
But you've tried looking at it for a long period of time?
I stared at it.
Where my deck building starts.
But then I compare it to Rampart. So that's it's just kind of a weird. But then that zooms me out a little further, which is like the legendaries and fabled in this set. So the other legendary, which is the one we've been dancing around.
We just gotta.
What's it called?
We gotta do it.
We gotta get all this out so we can just be all hype train next year.
Yeah, we gotta get out of this.
I've got like literally
4 decks in the deck builder right now that I'm jacked to be building. So like it's done that.
Yeah, that's the again all this with a grain of salt.
Make the game exciting and good.
Which actually is leading into my
I guess
point.
It's done that.
So what are you pulling up right now?
The merchant.
Yeah, what's the silver hand? What's
all
it
right,
called?
so check this card out.
Can you read it to me?
Silver Palms. At the start of each other hero's turn, if they have less life than you, they may draw a card. And if they do, you create a silver token.
Box for 2.
Yeah, but even then it's Blade Break, you know? It's not even Battle Worn 2. Here's my critique of this card.
It looks cool.
It looks great, yeah. I think there's some use cases for this in future formats, right? If we put our brain on PvE and stuff, and the merchant at the table is giving everybody cards for money, cool.
Dude, everyone getting cards and you getting money in a cooperative scenario.
Then it's just you have to have
this thing goes to the moon.
Yeah, then you have to have it to play PvE. You got to have the merchant. But it's all about, and this is the same thing that we're talking about with a lot of these other cards in the set. Is there a way to also make this playable and constructed?
Totally.
In any way.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way? And you start by not giving 100% agency of your card on the table to your opponent. That's a good place to start for a playable constructed card, right? Like basically, if your opponent doesn't ever want this to do anything, it never will. And I think any card like that in an environment where you have a 1v1 format that is the traditional way to play, is simply unplayable in the vast majority of Flesh and Blood games. When it could be both playable in whatever fancy PvE format you might have cooking, and also in constructed or blitz or anything else. For a class that already is starved for anything that matters, this could have said, for instance, if they have less life than you, you trigger it, they draw a card, and you create a silver token. Action, it has to be the first thing you do on your turn. They get a free card. Oh, it's a terrible downside. You get a silver. You're a merchant. You got cards that can use that eventually. Like, cool. Yeah. At least it's doing something for me that I'm in control of. So unfortunately, it's just kind of like, I think with a little bit of tweaking, this could have filled all the roles without just totally leaving 99% of Flesh and Blood behind. Yeah. Right now.
Now, notably, I think about Crucible of War, which is a comparable supplementary set, which is where I was going beyond just this card being very head scratching. And the cards we got in these slots were Shiana, literally a young hero. So very unplayable. And I mean, you could actually technically play on constructed.
You're getting closer by the day, man, with all this specializations.
But we got Shiana, step 1. We got the Tunic reprint. So comparable to the Skullcap for me in terms of what we're getting out of this set. And then we got the Arknight Shard. Yeah. Which is very comparable to the Guardian card. It's the first card that pitches for 4. It's a blue card that pitches, and when you do, you create a seismic search. Mm-hmm. So, like, do I think it's great? No. Do I think it's interesting? Yes.
Like all the gems, you're slightly tempted.
Yeah, which is good. I think the Fabled slot is not meant to be a critical card, right? Yeah. But in general, when I look at Crucible compared to this, at this slot, it makes me feel like and I'm mixed feelings about it, right? You talk about new players. Having there not really be cards at the legendary Fabled slot in a set that are critical to constructed, from a constructed player standpoint, is actually a major boon. Mm-hmm. Because it means that I don't have to own those cards. Like, the most exciting cards here for constructed play are the commons.
All the commons. The commons are bringing the heat, man.
So from a set perspective, it's like, okay, buy 2 or 3 boxes and get everything you need to play constructed for the players. The most interesting thing about that merchant equipment being in the legendary slot for me, because I can get on board with that. Whereas, like, even the Majestics are questionably, there's a lot of the Majestics you don't need as a player of constructed. And then the recognition of the really rare stuff, like collectors are going to collect. So you do want to, and there's a lot of like full art cold foils, and like the lantern looked beautiful in the cold foil. Yeah. And the Bravo, and so you have these weird collector elements, so you're hitting at that. And so, there's these components going on that I don't necessarily mind, but it kind of comes back to, and I oscillate between how I stand on this, right? Like, not needing the legendary or the fabled from a set is probably good for players. Yeah. that are just buying a couple boxes. Like, I think it's the most exciting for them.
Mm-hmm.
Collectors, on the other hand, while there is rare stuff to collect, the more playable the stuff, the more of a collector's item it becomes.
Right.
Like, Tunic isn't expensive just because it was rare or beautiful.
Like, nobody wants the Stephen Woolley Chelsea High School rookie card, even though there's only one of them.
That's right.
Right, yeah. Because he did not go on to do anything.
Yeah, so that's where I get to, like, the young heroes, where I think you're saying, and I agree, you could make it exciting for everybody by giving us the young and the adult, and the specializations for the young heroes that also now have an adult version. Same thing with the Legendary and Fabled, where, like, I'm less concerned about those being hyper playable. But the most peculiar thing about that decision is that one of them is for Merchant, which is seemingly a Ultimate Pit Fight 2v2 multiplayer only card.
And I think it's only in Blitz currently, right? Merchant's only at 20.
Yeah. So, like, a card that's really rare, that is only ever really useful or playable in your more casual formats.
And speculating as to what those formats are.
Right.
Because they don't exist currently.
Sure. Now, Ultimate Pit Fight does exist.
Yeah.
But, like, that just seems really bizarro to me.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to make that card hard to get?
So tell me this, at a certain point, if we're trying to hit both
Ryan Roper. Wait, there's a Steven rookie card?
Yeah, that's right. It's cold foil too, you wouldn't believe it. We at Chelsea High was working at cold foiling long ago. So if you're looking at how to maximize the enjoyment of both, of everybody. I mean, that's the goal, right? Of everybody.
Yeah, what is the goal? That's where I'm trying to zoom out.
I think you should be making the product as viable and enjoyable for everybody who plays your game as you can. I mean, I think that's got to be the prompt, right? Any product, that's pretty much your prompt. You define your audience, right? Mm-hmm. And I think if you build only I don't even know. If you build only like super competitive cards, what does that look like? Just like a ton of deck building options? I don't know. So I don't know what the bad side of playing too competitive is, aside from maybe very granular and less fun games. I could see that going that direction. I mean,
it doesn't have to be that either, right? It's like, if every card were like the commons, I think the commons by and large all hit that mark.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not about being grindy or overly serious.
It's not about buying 20 boxes.
It's literally just, you could buy 3 boxes and you're going to get new cards that are playable for every hero in the game that give you different deck building options. So to me, that's the player focus side. And it hits both Blitz and Constructed.
And see, you know what? Remember when we were kids, was it 30, 40, 50 years ago? Back when we were young? And you would open like Darth Vader, or you actually didn't do that very much. Open like a Darth Maul, like we were playing Star Wars CCG. Yeah. And you know what the first thing was like, I have to build a Darth Maul deck.
Yep.
And like that was one of the coolest things of the big hits in those kinds of games that we were playing, the TCGs at the time, was like pulling a Millennium Falcon wasn't like, oh cool, I finished my collection. It was like, I can build a Millennium Falcon deck, and that's all that you wanted to do for the next 2 years, right? But if I pull a Silver Palms or whatever, I don't have any of that, none of it. So to that point, I think your legendaries at least need to like be interesting to get on the table. You want to see these cards you're collecting on the table. It'd almost be better if they were just cool alt arts of existing cards or something, right? If you're worried about collectability versus playability, that's always the middle ground you can hit. It's like, give different art styles or different treatments to cards, but don't fundamentally block the experience of that card behind a gate. Yeah. A legendary fabled gate where you have to buy 1 million boxes.
Now, there is a thematic component of this, which Jonathan was asking us about before the stream, which is, if you actually make all the merchant-specific equipment legendaries in, say, supplementary sets for the next couple sets, several years from now, at some point, the merchant sits down at the table to play, and they've got the 4 legendary equipment that is like to be the merchant, right? It's like you're to be
you
the
have
decked
to
out
chase
merchant.
it down over 20 years.
It's a process, right? So like there's also the long ball play there, but I guess for me the biggest across the board with this set, I think the goal is achieved of they've made it interesting and exciting for Blitz and Constructed players to revisit and rethink the entire meta and every hero in the game right now. From every blitz hero all the way to even Captain. Like, I mean, they're hitting it all. Even Shiana getting the specializations. Like, every deck you could have built in this game for any reason is reinvigorated and interesting again, and solving. That's a big task.
You got options, yeah.
So hit. I think the weirdest thing about the set is there's a lot about the set that is like feels weird, and not in like a this is a new experience kind of way, but in like a I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with this kind of way for a lot of people. And part of that is hitting all those different players requires a certain amount, but it feels so close to being able to say, if we just got an adult merchant and then that equipment was actually like playable and constructed, but particularly playable in the multi-platform.
Yeah, you just don't have to choose one or the other.
You're just that close.
You're so close, right?
Yeah.
Even the merchant ability is already there, right? It's usable in 1v1, but it sure looks like it'd be a lot better in Ultimate Pit Fight. So yeah, I mean, I think there are just more clever ways to design some of these cards to hit more player types, more collector types. That seemed very much in reach. And to me, that probably is the biggest miss of the whole thing.
Yeah.
The ultimate, like you said, there's a ton of options. I've got a ton of new deck builds that I'm like staying up way too late working on and not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
Staring at. I can finally do test draws because they're in FabDB finally, and I'm like, oh no. It was so annoying because I was having to summon like biting blades and stuff for my blade runners, and now it's like, oh yeah, it's the real stuff now.
The real card.
So like that, they've achieved what a new set needs to achieve for me as a player at least.
Yeah.
And Ranger, man, there's so many Ranger builds, etc.
And I do wonder if this is going to be more normal moving forward, where the average player of the game might end up buying 2, 3, 4 boxes, right, of this kind of a thing, and the collectors maybe go a little deeper, and maybe that was the intent, was to not have the Command and Conquer in the set, or the
Bingo's pretty close.
Mask and Momentum. Like the super high powered, you got to have it legendary, as much as just like a lot of really interesting, different and the longer
they rock the commons and rares, man.
The longer the game goes on too, I've seen people calling this the sideboard set, which is like a lot of sideboard options, because there's the smashing good time or something, like the blow up the items. As a Guardian player, I've never seen a card I'm more excited to get than something that's an answer to Dash. Like
right.
Crazy.
You've gotten a lot of them recently.
So just that reality of like, is it that the average player is, because I think that was part of the problem with Welcome to Wraith and Arcane Rising, is like everyone that wants to play everything needs to buy enough product to get all of it. And so if your average player needs to buy 20 or 30 boxes, that's not sustainable.
For sure. And
that's how those early sets felt, is like the prices were going up so high on those really rare cards that it made more sense just to buy enough product to get it all.
Yeah, it's true.
Than to just hope you get it, right?
Yeah.
That was math I was factoring going into Monarch, was like, well, it's just I may as well buy enough boxes to give myself a shot. And then if I get doubles, I can trade into the things I want instead of having to do it. But these prices calm down, and it's like, what do you want players to be? I'd be really curious to talk to someone from Legend Story about the intent. Like how much product do you want people to be buying? What's your goal with a set like Everfest? Because we don't know if they hit their goal or not. Whether or not that's the right goal, I don't know.
Then we have the big question of Unlimited, right? I mean, like, is that actually still going to be a thing?
Presumably.
We've seen, there's been images of Everfest Unlimited, is that right? I mean, that's easy enough to do. You could put a red Unlimited banner on anything.
I did see images bounce around somewhere that didn't seem like someone had put it together. So,
and that, that gets pretty interesting too.
How do you feel? And then I'll actually pay attention.
What's up, chat? Yeah, we need to get in with you guys.
We've just been here
in the dog.
What's your take on there only being one talent card in the entire set, which is the shield?
Yeah, it's a strange one.
Right?
It's a strange one. Wait, so much of this. Was Brendan talking about this on one of the Twitter Spaces or whatever? I don't know. Because it's Twitter Spaces. It's
gone. It's like your dad's last radio show.
Yeah,
can't get it back.
That's right. There's how are we to understand the subdivision of things in the game and where the silos are going to live? Because there's a part of you that says, because we're back on generics in this one. Lots of them. And no talent cards. And so do you start with a class, and then that class is broken into heroes, most of which can use the same class cards, probably all the same class cards. And then you have a giant pool of class cards. So let's say 70% of playable cards are going to come from my class pool, 20% are going to come from my generic pool, and 10% are going to come from my talent. But then you look at heroes like Bolton, and it's like 95% of my playable cards come from my talent pool. I don't really want to play any of the existing warrior cards.
Well, they come from your class talent pool.
Correct.
The light guardian or the light
That's
warrior
right.
pool, not
Class
the light
talent.
pool.
So there's another silo.
There's very
So
few of
there's
actual
more
just
silos.
talent.
So okay, hold on. I'll do it again.
Yeah.
Class. And a class can have talentless class cards, talented class cards, and non-talented or non-class talent cards.
Just straight up talent.
Talents,
and then also you have generics.
Yeah. So there's one vision for this, which is like if there's a light hero, the biggest pool of cards that hero pulls from is the light cards. The second biggest is the class cards. And then the third is the generics. Right? Like that's a standard distribution of the way things could go. You could also do it where a new hero pulls the majority from their class cards, some from their talent cards, some from their talent class cards, some from their generics. And I would just really kind of like to know what is the ultimate vision, because injecting talent cards is so difficult when the talent pool of heroes is so small.
Yeah. I mean, I almost think that there's a timeline on this, right? Where we start with non-talent cards because you need a lot of generics because you only have 4 classes and 4 pools. So you want more cards in a set that are playable by everyone.
Yeah, and it's better for limited.
Yeah, but then
ultimately,
in time, eventually, we might have a light hero from 7 classes. So if you release 5 light cards, you're giving cards to a bunch of different heroes without just giving warrior more cards. Right? You're giving Bolton and you're giving the light illusionist and you're giving the light ninja cards all at the same time. But that makes a lot less sense in the first 5 years of the game. Or the first corner, right?
Ooh, they've got so much work to do, though. I mean, like, how long is it going to take to get 5 light heroes?
A while. But
we're talking like 8 years later, then it's like, okay, now it's time to start bursting out with... I'm pretty sure they have a plan on this.
I mean, I think that is the toughest thing. When you're looking at something too closely for too long, it's like right now our inability to know what new players would really want out of a set.
Right.
Like what would really make them happy.
Too disconnected.
So my assumption is that they had a plan for how all these classes and talents can interact and what that means for the sets you can release and when you can do it. And I like the idea that over time the sets aren't just the same. So the fact that you can release light cards later and that's going to hit differently than when you were releasing them in Monarch, that's a feature. But you also have to keep people engaged the entire time in a way that is meaningful. And one of the biggest challenges, and we'll talk more about this on the podcast, of any game that is expandable like this is how do you consistently keep people that have been around engaged and also get new people engaged in that same experience while releasing products that serve both players.
Yeah.
And that dichotomy is one of the most challenging realities in all of tabletop.
Yeah. And then you look at the I think it's probably the most successful in Magic the Gathering. Let's just take spoils, because we played a good deal of spoils, and it's basically Magic in every way. But you had the 5 factions, right? And then you usually would start one and then splash into the other. So you could pair 2 of them together in all of your decks. And so like when a new spoil set released, there's a lot of advantages of that. One of the clear advantages is that every card in that set I'm like interested in. Yeah. I'm like, ooh, I can build a deck around this or around this or around this. Yeah. And then all of your limited play is wide open because anybody can play anything, right? You're not locked. But because you start siloing things behind classes and talents and these kinds of things and class talent cards, to introduce light cards now in a set that's not a supplementary set, you've got to have a light hero. And then if you have a light hero, like, do you just go ahead and put 2 light heroes in? Because then you can get double the mileage out of that limited set. And so now we're back to, do we have something that looks like Monarch every 3 years? And that also speaks back to the previous heroes. Yeah. Because now you got to balance these silos around limited interactions as well. And we've already seen some of the complications with that. Yeah.
And I like conceptually, I think the overall interest would be very low in this kind of a thing. But I like the idea of a set that has one talent or one class featured. So I always like jokingly talk about you could do a wizard set, and it's like 4 different wizards with 4 different talents. Mm-hmm. But the cards they can all play in limited are the wizard cards. Right. But then you get light cards and shadow cards and elemental cards and whatever the other one is, right? But at the same time, just thinking it through, right? Anyone that doesn't play wizard, that's a total set bust.
I mean, unless the talent cards
there it is
are voluminous and quality enough.
Yeah.
And you play a talented hero.
So if you play light or you play the elemental, because even I like elemental as a theme, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if there was a set that was all wizards, and I don't really play wizard, and then hopefully there would be a wizard I'd be interested in, right? You expand to be interested in wizard.
Yeah.
But now, if there are ice and earth and lightning cards in there that are interesting to me, it's like, is the sealed experience good? And also, is there enough of those cards that make me interested in buying it? Check the boxes, right?
Yeah.
So I think it could go either way. You could have 4 light heroes in the same set. That's or 3, just like we have with Arya. You have one
like
talent,
4 different classes.
Right?
Yeah.
And suddenly, right? If we get a light ninja, there's a lot of ninja players that care more about the monarch cards back in the day. Hey, right? Like whatever that equipment is, and those cards are in the light pool. So, and then the biggest question for me on that whole framework though is, in time, how do you actually solve the problem that is, okay, you introduce a light ninja, now a bunch of players want to play light that didn't buy monarch, that didn't buy set number 2 that had light in it. Mm-hmm. And they're missing these key cards, right?
Yeah, it's like a Gordian knot, man.
I don't know. They're layering it all down, and I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm enjoying it while it's here.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a wild ride, isn't it? It's like a strange thing that they've layered up, and it's so built on like theme and lore and seemingly intention, and they're just not saying what the intention is. Yeah, and maybe that's on purpose.
And that can be good and bad, though, right?
Yeah.
So I think that lack of intent expressed is the same reason we're scratching our heads right now about all the young hero support and the merchant class and stuff here, which could lead to a really exciting announcement at some point and reveal. But in the meantime, you're leaving excitement on the table. And that's an equation to balance. And even on the set distribution we were talking about earlier, kind of like Monarch had 4 classes, 2 talents. I think you can flip that math, too. Mm-hmm. You could do 2 classes, 4 talents.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different... So I wouldn't be shocked if they basically don't want the sets to feel the same every year, right? It's like...
Maybe that's on the whiteboard, right?
It's not just, hey, like the next one, if it was following the same previous pattern, 4 classes, 2 talents in the next set. Mm-hmm. It'd be pretty cool if they swap that. It's like, actually, we're going to introduce a new talent. We're also going to give you more elemental cards, light cards, shadow cards. And then there's going to be, because we haven't seen, we got a lot of Runeblade off the table for a minute. But it's like, we're going to get 2 wizards and 2 illusionists, or wizard, or whatever you want.
Ninja.
So there's a lot of ways to layer it where the sealed experience is also very different, and you're serving a lot of different players. But I'm glad I'm not in charge of that.
They put it together.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, what's up? Let's check in with chat here. How are you guys doing? Saw a ton of comments coming through that whole time.
Yeah, I kind of saw them, but I was knee deep.
Yeah, it's just like, wow. There's just a lot to talk about. This brings up, there's an uncorking of kind of flesh and blood thought that both Arya and Everfest have really kind of push those boundaries of like, what exactly is going on? Like, what should we expect? What's the long tail of this look like? What's the plan here?
Yeah,
people who really like to know the plan. I think I'm one of them.
I would be curious to know. You need to know enough of the plan.
Yeah.
To keep buying in, right? To keep being sold on this
card guys.
But I would be curious to know, everyone out there listening while we're live, and then even later leaving a comment about, now that we've kind of seen the whole set and it's all laid out, are you more or less excited at this point than you were before we knew anything?
What a question.
And then also, has the reveal of this set changed your intent to purchase? Like what you were thinking you were going to do versus what you're actually going to do? Because I think that will actually reveal
market
a lot
research
about the success or not of this set. And then third question, multi-tier here.
Biggest hit, biggest miss.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about how I'm excited about Construct at this point and diving in. regardless of any of the other factors going on. So if that excitement's actually there, right? That's critical to this piece as well.
100%. Gruder saying expect the unexpected. Stephen Delaney here says they feel like they're still building up to something. Do you have that impression? Do you think there's something ticking underneath here that is going to be like the final clicks it all together, minds blown, brains on the floor kind of thing?
I won't be shocked. I don't know though. Like, I'm trying to imagine what that could even remotely look like. Each talent being announced is going to be really exciting. New classes and/or talents are always going to be an exciting hit.
Yeah.
But I always get the sense that they have very much thought out this process.
Yeah. Right.
So I won't be shocked if, as it goes, it like clicks more and more and more. And the question mark is like, we've talked about this.
Can you sustain until it finally clicks?
And when it does click, is that different than what people originally thought they were going to get?
Yeah.
Like this full on, year 5 of Fab and the sets coming out. Is that experience enjoyable for people that bought in at Welcome to Wraith and thought this was the experience they were getting?
That's the great litmus test of all games, isn't it? Comic Prime, we know Twitch is saying we're playing Animal Crossing. I guess in some ways we are, but I don't know why it says that or how to change it. So I guess we are. Listic saying, way more excited. I'm actually buying boxes of Tales of Aria right now because of how much I like the look of these cards in Everfest. So there's your data point right there.
All right, that's a good data point.
Stephen Delaney, more excited. I think it opened up a lot of new builds and experimentation. What's Obsidian up to? I'm not sure. I'm more excited than I was before spoilers, but I'm certainly more excited than I was during the first few days of spoilers. Okay. But maybe, were you on the same place as me, Obsidian? You were like kind of worried that it was a little too left field?
It was going to be too out there.
Cigar, Trump, and Sarge, clearly a Guardian player. After seeing the set, I'll only be buying singles. So there's your spectrum.
If you're just picking up the commons and rares and a couple of the Majestics.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, is that bad?
Yeah, so Grieve Lawrence saying the same thing. I think overall with the power level of the Majestics so far, I'm buying less than before. I'm going to buy all the commons and rares and then just see if any of the Majestics end up good. Michael going to buy into class-based box breaks.
It's a fair way to do it.
Playtime TCG saying I'm less excited to open this set, but still excited to brew some new cards. The brew is there. Lots of good comments here. Wade Jones is more excited. Definitely want them to start putting out their plan for how it all fits together. I can live with the ride, but it'll be nice to see the horizon. I agree with that. It is nice to see the horizon.
Where are we going?
Where are we going? Cody Davis, biggest hit, giving Azalea options for wide and tall. 100%. She actually may have it at this point.
King of Odinana may be hitting, saying general construction of all this could be bad for Legend Story Studios sales / local game stores, but good for us players, I guess.
It's hard to know how those two things are mutually good.
Floating Skull saying, well, if the average number of boxes a player wants to buy goes down, but they're as excited about the game, you lower the cost of entry on that set.
Add players.
And as more sets are out, it's like a new player gets into the game. There's a lot of product for a new player to buy right now that they could not just like have to buy, but could be excited to buy, which is good for retailers. So I don't know. Every set may not need to be a set you buy 20 boxes of.
Well, I would like that.
Sure.
Ian Schaefer says, slightly less exciting for me. That mostly stems around the number of Majestic heroes that I could open, multiple copies that will just be a waste. I agree with that completely. I like that you are agreeing with me, Ian. I agree with you agreeing with me.
We all agree together.
Grieve Valoran, the biggest hit there is the Arcanite Skullcap reprint. So that's not exactly great.
That's not an exciting hit.
The card guy says, less excited about the set. I won't be opening hardly any now. We made a whole video on the set, and the entire team gave the set either a 4 or a 5 out of 10. Said they played it too safe with this set. I think them playing it too safe is what I like a lot of the time, that it's fun to use.
Not going crazy.
Reddy Netty, on the contrary, says Everfest looks way more interesting than Aria was for me. And Gree's biggest miss, Legendary and Majestic power levels.
And I'm curious about the intentionality of that, honestly.
Yeah. So far, no immediately banned cold foil Majestics.
Hey,
So
that's good.
That's a plus. Yeah.
That is a improvement.
Ryan's biggest hits here are Blade Runner, and the biggest miss is the Potion of Ironhide. It gives all your attack actions +1 defense for the turn when you crack it. So, you have a 5-card hand with some of those tools. It's +5 defense. Come on now. Card Guy's greatest hit here is Blitz Support. Greatest miss is completely ignoring some heroes in CC almost entirely. Now, I saw a comment earlier. It does feel a little strange to have a set like this going into the biggest CC season they've ever done.
Yeah. Now, during the CC season this year, we're likely to get 2 sets on top of this.
Yes.
So we're basically going to have the ProQuest season into the Pro Tour in April, and the Call-In and Indy they announced. And then like a month and a half later, we'll probably get a new set.
Yeah. But then most of it clicks to limited, doesn't it?
Then we'll have another season, which I assume will be call-ins, and you'll have sealed and limited and stuff. Then we should, if the timeline holds, get a set about a month before Worlds. So like the game will look, I think, radically different by the time we even show up to Worlds.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah.
I also assume like World Championship and stuff will have sealed and stuff integrated.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I can't wait to get back to that. Gruder saying the set looks like a lot of fun to open, honestly. All the extended arts, cold foils, etc. While it seems like a blitz set, some of these cards are probably going to have some real staying power. Master G says Everfest is for Guardian players and blitz enthusiasts, although I will say every class that I play, which is not the most competitive classes, got huge things here.
Warrior Ranger.
Yeah.
And then
compared to Arya, nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I got nothing in Arya.
Yeah.
I got a lot of good stuff in this set.
You literally got 0 in Arya.
0.
Yeah.
0, Zach.
Wade says it may just be that their sets and fab are going to be hit and miss for everyone depending on what heroes you love, and that's just part of how the game is being built.
Old Nurgle Probe here on Twitch. Still going to buy a box because I enjoy doing one first edition for each set for fun and that cold foil luck. Not super excited about the set overall. Too much I don't really need or want, which makes sense for a supplement box. A lot that I don't really need or want, which makes sense. Yeah, it's a supplement, I guess. That's the kind of the point. Huh?
Nurgle Probe saying, hey, Bolt and Shot was and is super good for Azalea.
That's true. That's true.
Got Seek and Destroy.
That's true.
Tools
got Seek and Destroy. Come on, it's okay. It's fine.
Shochi, and I think this is kind
solve
of
problems.
One of the bigger pieces that I don't hate necessarily, saying love that the biggest hits for me are actually the commons.
Yeah, I was the same way. But
that's what I mean by like from a player perspective, that's like really good. If you can buy 2 boxes and get everything you need from a set as a player, in the long run, especially the supplemental sets, right? Because it's not sealed. It's not like you're just going to keep cracking these to play in local events or to have introductory events. That's like seal's the perfect thing in the world.
But why would you, as a publisher, design a set in a way that you're reducing your sales by 100%, 50%, 75%, whatever it is?
I mean, the only explanation, unless you're just crazy, is that by reducing the expected amount players are planning to buy every set, it's more sustainable and more accessible to people in the long run.
So you replace lost sales in terms of quantity per player with new players that are buying at lower quantities.
New players, and how long are players going to keep buying? Right? If you actually are buying 20 boxes a set, like that could eventually get problematic, right?
There is kind of a weird tension between powerhouse cards and affordable and easy to get cards.
Yeah. It's only because of the collectability aspect, right?
Yeah. Like if all of your Majestics were just like heated, everybody would be doing air horns and exclamation points in the chat. But then maybe you're frustrated that like, I can't get it though. Because I only do 1 box of a set.
You can either not get it, or if you are going to get it, you're going to pay a lot for singles. And there's stuff, like the people, Crazy Bull saying, I'm super excited just for the new Bravo. So there are hits. Like I think that you get that cold foil Bravo, and that's going to feel really great. That's a big hit.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of full arts and the cold foils and stuff, and so like I don't know. It's just previously it was the collector's cards were also very playable hits.
Yeah, but like you said, if it's not playable, it's not as collectible.
Right.
Right, because then
now
it's all just supplying them in.
Super collectible, and only a blitz hero. Right? Yeah. Even the Rainbow foil was doing quite well for a while. So like.
That was a weird time, though. That was an unsustainable time for the world.
Sergio saying power creep successfully avoided in the set.
That's true. I haven't really seen anything that makes me... They won't... They're at least good at sticking to the formula.
Yeah, I even think New Bravo is not just strictly, like, insane.
Mm-hmm.
I started to actually build for New Bravo, and, like, the weirdest part of it is that ability is cool. It's hard to have one of each element in the hand, right? And if you get the +2 and the go again and the dominate for free, what are you doing with it?
Mm-hmm.
And what are you doing with a hand that's got one of each element type in it?
Dude, you're playing the biggest attack you can, and you're playing it on top of that Towering Titan. You're going to swing for 32, man.
36, here we go. Or, realistically, you're swinging for like 7 and 9 with dominate.
Why you got to rain on my parade?
Yeah, and then swing
realism.
Then swing the Ice Hammer. Mm-hmm. But then you're swinging the Ice Hammer, so like, okay, I'm going to put a bunch of blue ice cards in. And you run Crown of Seeds, and then by the end of it, it's like, I'm playing an Oldhim deck that's worse than playing Oldhim.
Yeah. That's because you're not supposed to run Crown of Seeds. You're supposed to run that Ice Shield because you're not going to be pitching for defense. And you're supposed to run the Arcanite Skullcap, which is already reprinted in the set. It's right in front of you if you would just have the courage to do it. Because you got to think, Crown of Seeds, it's overblown.
It's so good. It's so good, especially with the Rampart the Ram's head. But
that's a different build, though. Put that in a pocket and then tear it out and throw it away.
I think the thing that's fascinated me about it, because the lightning cards and a lot of the element cards don't.
You're playing Flash, right?
You got to play Flash.
Yeah. That's the whole point.
But there's so many cards that just don't really function with Guardian in the elements. It's like a Weave Ice, basic example of a card I really like, but like only works on elemental cards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fine balance between the element cards, the elemental cards that those cards boost, and then actually why are you even playing Bravo in the first place?
Yeah.
So I've been really intrigued because at first I saw him, I was like, he's going to be insane.
That's my favorite kind of deck build, though.
Yeah,
where it's like, if I can just thread this needle somewhere.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm cooking. We'll probably hopefully have something cooked up by next week on stream.
What's up, Guppy J? Saying good morning, everyone from Australia. Been a long time between drinks. Hope you're all well. We hope you're well as well.
I just keep going to this Fab website and refreshing.
Pro Tour is not up yet?
Pro Tour announcement. It's supposed to go up today.
Well, let's
hope we get it on stream.
Let's cap this thing off, man. No need for us to blather on forever.
We could.
We
got to go record some
really
podcasts.
Could. What do you think? What do you think? So we're 6 sets in now. Let's do a little primer for the cast here. You're 6 sets in. You're 2 blocks done. What do you think is going to happen this next year for Flesh and Blood? Because let's be real about it, right? There's a honeymoon phase of any kind of game like this, and when it's going well, it goes really well, and then like everything in the world, the speculators and the shiny object folks, of which I'm one, look at other stuff and they're like, okay, I'll go play something else. Maybe I'll only buy a little box. And every trading card game, aside from a few, has eventually folded. Mm-hmm. And non-trading card game, and any collectible, or I should say competitive game that's expanding, has essentially they've all like folded. So there's a tension here always in a player base. And this is a long time to go before we've really felt it, because it's just been so successful for so long. And that actually kind of makes it more stressful whenever people are like, wait, I can get first edition boxes for MSRP? This game is failing. So we're at that point now where I think you feel this kind of, those of us who are like, we love the game and we know it's a great game, and are like seeing other people say, the game, I'm not going to play the game anymore. And it's like, but it's still just one of the greatest games ever made. You should be playing. And then it's like, but the Majestic slot isn't doing it for me. Those kinds of things. There's always this tension here. What do you think happens in the next year? Let's address that directly. Should people be worried? Is there a adequate
I have a lot to say.
Concern?
But I'm going to save that for the podcast.
Yeah.
Give me
a Cliff's Notes. Mr. Cliff.
Man, asking to summarize.
Because I'm just here to play, but I don't have to. I don't have to run the whole booster box collectible thing. You're the willing patron on that. So
yeah, I mean, you obviously want your players and your stores to continue to want to buy the product. That's got to happen, or you can't keep making the game.
Yeah.
But I think I'll tease it with this. The excitement that was created throughout the player base when we saw Icelander for the first time and Bravo Star the Show points to me that the introduction of talents and new heroes, and even new heroes that use old talents, is a hype engine that is set to hum for several years. Like 1 or 2 new talents a year, new heroes with classes, using classes in new ways that we haven't seen. Like I picture, we obviously got a lot of rune blades, but an ice wizard, of course, was an exciting thing to see. So a lot of times the problem is that the system that a game is built on isn't prepared to continue exciting its players without just making fundamentally more powerful cards. So they've created a system up front that gives them the leg room to run, whether or not they do run and people are engaged by that and excited about it. But like just seeing Icelander, and I look at Icelander and for me, Kasei, adult versions of those characters, that's why I'm so scratching my head at this set. It's like we were so close to like insane excitement.
They all get their specializations. They all get adult versions.
Yeah. And seemingly, So when I realized the energy that could be there, and again, you don't want to play your whole hand all at once. Like,
sure.
They can give us specializations. Now blitz changes. That's fine. And then we still can probably get adults later on. And that will be exciting when we finally do. And there's an element too of like, you just don't want short-term dopamine hits all the time. So like, if it takes 2 years or 3 years or 4 years to get the adult Icelander.
I have a lot of comments about that. Dopamine hits.
Yeah, it's like when she does finally show up, there's going to be a lot of people that have been stewing and brewing for a while and super hyped about that.
Yeah. So to that point, hey, let's talk. This is a great comment from David here. David Vegel, longtime fan, longtime friend, I would say. David saying it's so natural, even with TV series. First seasons or sets are great, then it isn't as interesting. Happened with all the games I played: Netrunner, Lord of the Rings TCG, Star Wars CCG, etc. Even the greats, right? Go through this. Saying sometimes I think games don't have enough development space to go beyond 3 years. It's easy to think that too. So your argument is that there's less upfront excitement potentially because you're not shoving everything you've got at the first 3 years, trying to figure out a shadows mechanic or a new way to do X, Y, or Z that's going to keep people excited. And you're building up this kind of foundational thing that can actually conceivably generate interesting gameplay interactions for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
That would be your case.
Yeah. And how they sustainably do that, I don't know. That's the big question. They're rotating sets out. People have been talking about like a core set style product at some point that has cards from the first 3 sets as an example. Or starter decks or there's got to be a solution there. But the recognition that anytime they introduce a new Rune Blade, I'm paying attention. I'm interested in exploring it, especially if there's new talent on top of it.
Yeah.
It's like, there are cards I wasn't playing in the Rune Blade card pool before that Briar plays. And so that keeps going. So if the lore is exciting and interesting, they've also seemingly put a lot of work into that element. I don't know. Every time there's a new class.
Art keeps getting better.
Class, hero, or talent, it's exciting. So they have a lot of levers to pull that aren't just completely reinvent the game. That they seemingly already have planned out. So I think that's the tease.
And Obsidian saying that's exactly what I'm saying. The system/engine for excitement is finally here. They just need to keep a steady stream of new talents and good limited support sets. Well, there you have it. We're going to try to get James on the podcast to talk about these things.
A couple things. Everfest releasing this week. We're planning to have it in stock on the website. If you're a subscriber, those are going out the door. We do have
just looking, it's almost packed up.
Almost packed up. What is it? Tuesday. That should be going out the door. Most people with tracking should be seeing that start tomorrow. We are expecting some pretty bad weather on Thursday, which hopefully won't affect anything.
We're trying to get things out a little early.
Yeah.
Just don't tell anybody.
But the other thing about the weather across the country, because I know it's stringing across, if you're in any area, like even if it doesn't seem like it should affect you, it could. The postal system, we try to ship these things to get to you on release day as fast as we legally can get them to you. But if that's happening, just pay attention to your tracking and be patient. It'll get there as soon as we can feasibly get it to you. I know the excitement is high. I'm ready to open my boxes and actually start building my decks physically and playing them. But shout out to all our subscribers for, again, making all this possible. It's really
Absolutely
incredible. And to Legend Story for continuing to entertain us and put the work in. It's a hard job.
So much to talk about. So much interesting stuff to do. And apparently James is going to be on an interview with Instant Speed tomorrow. And the rumor mill says that that's supposed to be the announcement for PvE.
Really? That'd be a big deal.
So who knows?
Hold on. I just got to check one last time. Let's see if the article for the Pro Tours. It's not up. Can't talk about it. It would have been a fun thing to talk about.
Well, we're going to have to watch that interview then, aren't we?
Yeah, I guess so.
You have to look up that one. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Let me click the buttons over here.
I'm going to just act like I'm clicking buttons.
It's been a pleasure to have you along for a discussion like this. All right. Take care. Keep playing Flesh and Blood. I surely am. And Doriax's is going to be the new meta.
We'll see you next week.